I have been alluding to it for weeks, but we have finally reached the point in the fantasy season where interest in DFS sees a sharp increase. Hopefully this week it's just because you have a bye week in the fantasy playoffs, but if you didn't even make the playoffs, don't worry. DFS is here to welcome you with open arms. What is up? Good morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you've decided to watch our show. Happy Friday, happy Saturday, happy Sunday, whatever the case may be. Welcome to week 15 in DFS. Welcome to the DFS Academy. I am your host, Ryan Weisse, and we are here to help you build some tournament lineups, some cash lineups. Tournaments are covered by the lovely Kelly in Phoenix in her swanky Los Angeles offices this week.
Yeah, it's been a week. But it's good. It's busy. It's good. The season's coming to an end. And that's what keeps me in a job.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna say that's what keeps me motivated, that it'll all be over soon.
Keeps me, what do you call it? Employed.
Yeah, we want you employed. That's what it really comes down to. And on the cash side of things, author of the A-List, Austin Amandolia. How are you doing today, sir?
Oh, doing great. I mean, it has been a week for me as well, but hey, we advanced in several underdog tournaments last week, so now I get to sweat over the quarterfinals, and I'm just gonna try and like put my phone down the entire all of a sudden day, mute that underdog app, and not check it incessantly, wondering how things are going.
Well, Austin, you got me. You got me in those 3 free entries from DraftKings Best Ball, and one of mine advanced. So unfortunately, that team also had Justin Herbert and Jonathan Taylor, so it's not advancing much further.
I had one with Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen on DraftKings that also advanced.
Yeah, so rough week there. But hey, still, you got me a little bit further into the tournament of a tournament I didn't even know existed. I appreciate that. Folks, just a quick reminder, we don't just talk DFS. You can actually play with us. In the description of this video, you will find links to our contest on both DraftKings and FanDuel. They are $2 contests. They have not been filling up, but it doesn't matter. They are resizing, so there's going to be a chance for you to win money. There's going to be a chance to hear your name live on air if you're able to take down the contest. So check those links and come play with us. Before we get into this week's slate, let's take a look back at last week's slate. We call it Answers to the Test. This is the winning lineup in Slate Breaker. Last week's Millionaire Maker scored 230 points. A lot of these names make sense. One name to me bothers me, and I'm going to ask you guys both about it. Lamar Jackson, Rachaad White, Joe Mixon, Drake London, Odell Beckham, Deebo Samuel, Isaiah Likely, Austin Eckler, if you don't know who's bothering me, and the Minnesota Vikings. First of all, shout out to the Minnesota Vikings defense. Not allowing a touchdown in 2 consecutive games. Brian Flores deserves as many awards as a defensive coordinator can get. But Kelly, the balls to play Austin Eckler after what we saw him do in New England 2 weeks ago. And then I kind of hoped it would be a bounce back game, and it did turn out to be a bounce back game. But when you get to your flex spot and you have that much money, there's no chance I would have went Austin Eckler in that situation.
Unless you're a fan. So that is my call. Must be a fan.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So it's just a Chargers fan who, like me, was like, it can't get any worse, right?
Exactly. That's my premonition about all of that.
Austin, I feel like we talked about it. We may not have, but Eckler felt like a certainly hands-off play in cash last week. And then another name that kind of, you could talk about both these guys, Drake London popping out of nowhere, but I think that was, let's attack the matchup. You play your wide receivers against Tampa Bay.
Right. And I believe I had Drake London in one of my cash lineups. I might have put him on FanDuel. I can't exactly remember, but he was cash viable last week. Like there were people across the industry talking about having Drake London in cash last week. So that one made sense. And then, yeah, Austin Eckler, definitely not a cash play last week, but that is part of why he was a good play for tournaments and for a large tournament such as this, where Austin Eckler, we know his ceiling. Like he is a good play for the game happening right now as we're recording this, because he could pop off for 4 touchdowns in a game. He still has that ceiling. It's just the floor has been so bad lately, and that's why we're not playing him in cash.
Yep. And back-to-back weeks, Deebo Samuel, the slate breaker, DraftKings 37 points, FanDuel 30.5. Kelly, is this a situation where they're maybe trying to take a little bit of the stress off of Christian McCaffrey? Is Debo stepping up and cutting into Brandon Ayuk's work, or is this just Debo being Debo and we're going to get pop games every now and then?
I would say it's just Debo being Debo. Brandon Ayuk, I'm sad to say, did not catch that anytime touchdown, which to me felt like they're just playing good coverage, and that opens up the opportunity to play Debo Samuel in that instance. So I think it's a one-off. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I'm with you on that. I still think he's a gadget player, but I will say, just looking at his weekly rankings, the gadgets seem to be working. Austin, you were someone who came into this season, I don't want to say down on Christian McCaffrey because I'm not trying to throw you under the bus, but you were worried about other running backs maybe taking some of his work. And now it really seems Debo, especially on scoring plays, seems to be kind of filling that role.
Yeah, I mean, this is sort of the nature of this offense. Like different players are going to pop off every week. McCaffrey is the most consistent out of the kind of elite weapons in that team. But between Ayuk, Kittle, and Debo, it's going to be hard to predict who actually hits their ceiling every year. I think they all have pretty safe floors, but that's what makes them interesting for tournaments and why I tend to avoid those guys in cash lineups.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think, honestly, I've been putting Ayuk, I've been finding ways to get him in every single week. And I think it's starting to come back to bite me. So I think that's really good advice is when you're dealing with a team where there's one consistent player and 4 wild cards, those aren't the kind of players you want in a cash lineup. As safe as they might feel, the ceiling isn't there and the floor just isn't always going to get it done. And we are going to move on to the week 15 lineups. I was going to say a full slate, but that is not true. While all 32 teams are active, we have 3 Saturday games this week. So with the typical Monday night, Sunday night, tonight's game, which nobody cares about. When I say tonight, I obviously mean last night for you guys, because you're listening to this into the future. But regardless, a little bit of a smaller slate when you really think about it. We are going to start with the top of the class. These are the high price players, $8,000 and above. Austin will be covering cash for you. Kelly will be covering tournaments. And sometimes there'll be some disagreements, agreements. Sometimes Kelly just won't even like anybody. But Austin, go ahead and get us started.
Yeah. So first off, it's been a while since we've done one of these. We have a podcast exclusive pick because I am not going to write about who I think is the most obvious cash lock of the week this week. But I will talk about him here, and that is Christian McCaffrey. Yeah. Big shock. Once again, we're going back to CMC, who is $9,300 on DraftKings. And once again, $10,500 on FanDuel. They barely moved his price after what was, I guess, a disappointing week. Like, He had the little snowflake on DraftKings after scoring 19 points, which is wild to me. Like that feels a little unfair. But remember how we used to pick on the Arizona Cardinals rushing defense? Yeah. We're going back to the well there. And as a reminder, the last time that Christian McCaffrey played the Arizona Cardinals, he went 20 rush attempts for 106 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns, plus 7 catches, 71 yards receiving, and a receiving touchdown, scoring 51.7 DraftKings points. I specifically remember this because this was before everybody played Christian McCaffrey all the time in cash, because I pivoted to him at like 4 o'clock, right before the 4 o'clock game started. And then Christian McCaffrey got me to the cash line that day. So I'm going with that again. Play Christian McCaffrey against the Cardinals.
Yeah, who would have thought he would need a get-right game after a 19-point week? Kelly, I have to agree with you here because when I was setting my DFS rankings earlier today, I was shocked at how many very, very viable plays there were cheap. And so while playing a guy like McCaffrey makes a ton of sense in cash, in tournaments, I think this might be a lot of medium guys and throwing in a cheap guy here and there.
Yeah, I found that as well when I was building my lineups, putting together my thoughts for this week. And another piece of this is that some of these stars and these very expensive players, especially when we're talking tight ends this week, are in very difficult matchups. So I don't know that I'm willing to pay upwards of $8,000 for a player that's playing against a team that's one of the toughest defenses, maybe in the top 5 defenses. There are better matchups out there.
Yeah, I think the two names that come to mind, and I doubt they're going to come up in this show at all, are Travis Kelce taking on New England, who historically shuts down tight ends and historically shuts down a team's best weapon. And then Tyreek Hill, who's dealing with his own injuries. I can't fathom. I think he's 10-2 on FanDuel right now. I understand Tyreek and Christian McCaffrey are mentioned in the same breath, but with an injured guy taking 1/7 of my cash, I just don't think I can pull it off this week, Kelly.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. There are especially when we talk defenses too, there's so many viable options out there. There's no reason to have to pay so high up this week.
Well, let's give you an opportunity to talk about a player, because you said there was a player who almost met that threshold for you. We're going to move on to band nerds. These are the good students who spend a little bit too much time practicing their instrument, so they're not quite top of the class. But hey, that means they fit perfectly into Kelly's lineup this week. We're talking $6,000 to $8,000 players. Kelly, go right ahead.
Yeah, I like Puca Nacua this week. But who doesn't, right?
I was going to say, as we all should.
As we all should. 7.3K on DraftKings, 8K on FanDuel. So he is on the higher end, but doesn't cross into that threshold. He's leading all rookies right now with 82 receptions. That's just rookies. He's the third most receptions by any player in their first 13 games in NFL history. So those pretty great stats surrounding Puka Nacua, besides having a really fun name to say. But he's projected, Ryan, for 15.7 fantasy points on DraftKings, 13 on FanDuel. He's also going to be pretty widely rostered, which the best matchups, we're just going to see that 9% projection right now for DraftKings. Not crazy, with the highest being, Garrett Wilson at 26% rostership. So this is actually a pretty low to mid rostership with Puka Nacua.
Yeah, Garrett Wilson's a fun one. I don't know the score or the show sheet off the back of my hand. I don't know if you guys bring him up, but it seems like it's a good matchup. And I was saying on our Wednesday show, there's a world where Zach Wilson goes off this week. So I'm going to be interested to see how that plays out. But you're actually looking to the other side of the field for a quarterback play. Are we thinking this may be a little bit of a high scoring game?
It feels like all of the data is pointing to that. The next person I'm looking at is Sam Howell, who truly is on the higher end of this week's quarterbacks. Everybody seems to be in love with the matchup here between Washington and Los Angeles. It's Sam Howell, 6.3K on DraftKings, 7.7K on FanDuel. And I think he continues to be weirdly underrated. Could be his fourth game in a row with a rushing touchdown, and his fourth game on the road with 300 or more passing yards. So I find that to be really wild, because obviously passing yards bring us points, touchdowns bring us points. And everybody else seems to be on board with that, but the pricing is still quite manageable.
Yeah. You mentioned his overratedness, and this isn't DFS, but I'm actually going to
underrated.
Underrated. My apologies. Yes, underrated, which my story was going to make a lot of sense. You mentioned underrated. I play in a 14 team. My home league is 14 teams, and I was shocked that Howell was actually floating out there on waivers. So I picked him up. I have Patrick Mahomes, so I don't need a quarterback, but thankfully I have the bye, so this is not a conundrum I would normally have. This week, Kelly, would you start Sam Howell in this potentially high-scoring game over Patrick Mahomes traveling to New England in what could be an ugly game? Or do we think Mahomes can bounce back? Would you start Howell over Patrick Mahomes in any sort of fantasy this week?
Oh gosh, over Patrick Mahomes makes it a little bit tough, although we know that it's going to be a bit of a problem getting the ball to his bestie, Kelce. So there is an argument to be made. I have a decision to make playing Lamar Jackson or Sam Howell. And to be honest, I like the matchup with Sam Howell better, and he's projected for more points.
Interesting. Austin, same question, just because I find it interesting. Thankfully, like I said, I managed to get the buy and not have to make this decision. And I honestly don't know which way I would go. If I'm being perfectly honest, I would think I might go Howell right now. Howell versus Mahomes.
I feel like we need to get you back to market like it's hot, because this is like when you kept asking those keep trade cut questions that were incredibly
just
painful.
to torture
It's
people.
just like it's like you get some kind of joy out of this or something, Ryan. Just like
this is an actual problem I almost had.
gosh, I could not bring myself. I don't know if I could bring myself to start Sam Howell over Patrick Mahomes, but that's like not analysis. That's just gut feeling bias, right? Like there's no data behind that. As much as I love to be data driven, I just don't think I would be able to click that button. I can understand the case. I don't think I'd ever be able to bring myself to do it.
So what's funny is I would never give the advice. I would never tell someone else to take their playoff hopes off of Patrick Mahomes. But for myself, I'll make the mistake. Austin, let's keep going. You're back to your Atlanta Falcons again this week.
Oh, don't say it like that. That just makes me nervous whenever we point that out.
You've been on it for 2 weeks and it's worked out very well for 2 weeks. So let's not be upset about this. I am very happy to see Bijan Robinson finally doing what we drafted him to do. So.
Yeah, I know. I feel like I have to knock on wood now, just because Arthur Smith has been the bane of my existence for so long. But yes, Bijan Robinson, he is $6,800 on DraftKings and $8,600 on FanDuel. He's priced up pretty significantly on FanDuel, but I still like him there. It's the Carolina Panthers, baby. They suck on defense. They're bad at defending the run. Alvin Kamara didn't quite get there on them last week because he didn't really get as many touchdowns as we were hoping, but Bijan Robinson had a great first week against the Panthers and his debut, and he has been an efficient AF lately. He is just so good at running the ball. He is currently tied for the third most rushes over 10 plus yards, and I decided to make a little game with this. Who do you think are the two players that he is behind in the most yards or most rush attempts for 10 or more yards?
I'm going to say Christian McCaffrey and I want to say it's a chain missed too many games. McCaffrey and Mostert.
Damn, that is it. Very nice, Ryan. That is correct. In fact, weirdly enough, he is tied with none other than James Cook. That's the one that got me, was that he's tied with James Cook.
I would have never in any world said James Cook a part of this discussion. So.
But Bijan's been doing this while not getting as many rush attempts as these other guys, because he's still been competing for touches pretty consistently with the likes of Tyler Algier and freaking Cordero Patterson of all people. So the fact that he's been able to produce this many explosive runs is really good. And he's also going to be a threat in the pass game. So love Bijan Robinson. Speaking of players that we were really excited about coming into the year and then disappointed us at times, Cooper Kupp is in my cash player pool this week, which I think it's the first time since before he got hurt that I've had him as an option in either on the show or in my article. But he is $7,800 on DraftKings and $8,200 on FanDuel. He went 8 for 115 and touchdown last week, which is pretty good for Cooper Kupp, especially at this price. The Commanders' secondary is met, and as Kelly was mentioning when talking about Sam Howell, this is likely to be a high-scoring game. Both of these teams play at pretty fast paces as well, so there's a good chance that there's going to be a lot of pass attempts, which means more potential volume for Cooper Kupp. It's good to see him. He looked more explosive last week and was getting the target volume to go along with it.
Games in Los Angeles, correct? We're not going to be worried about weather with this one?
I believe that is correct.
Okay.
No weather.
Okay, good. Because I know that was like my biggest concern with a lot of those East Coast games last week. So I'm glad to see that. And spoiler alert, there's going to be at least one other Washington player that's going to come up. My co-hosts are very much into this game, so that's something you guys should take away from this one, is it could be a very high scoring and interesting game. We're moving on to Bookworms. These are the quiet folks with their nose in the books, easily underestimated, but watch out, they can surprise you. These are the players we're looking at between $4,000, $6,000. Austin, keep it rocking with maybe my new favorite Green Bay wide receiver.
Yeah, I have been enjoying watching Jayden Reed start to excel in his rookie year, and his salary is really great given this his role in this offense right now. Particularly, like, he played on Monday night, and whenever a player does really well during Monday night, it often allows us to get a discount on them because the prices have already been set. So That's working out for Jayden Reed. He's $4,900 on DraftKings and $6,100 on FanDuel. He got 10 targets in that Monday night game. And most importantly, for his context, the thing with Green Bay this year is they've spread the ball around a lot, but there's no Luke Musgrave, there's no Christian Watson, and there's a good chance that Dontavian Wicks doesn't play. And so the target share the target tree is reducing to 3 different guys, 2 of which I like for cash this week. Also, they're going against the Tampa Bay defense. We've been picking on them. Their secondary is not great, and this is a great opportunity. There's a ceiling there, and he's just getting enough volume that he should be able to hit in cash.
What I like about him is also they're talking about AJ Dillon possibly missing this game, and they're getting him heavily involved in the rushing game as well.
Yeah, he's been becoming that dual threat and getting touchdowns off of the rush too, which is nice. But also another player we're gonna target for just the volume share is Ezekiel Elliott. He is priced at $5,800 on DraftKings and $6,500 on FanDuel. I'll admit he's like my 3rd running back option on the week. I prefer to go after Christian McCaffrey and Bijan Robinson. But if for some reason you're saying like, I want to target Tyreek Hill this week and you can't get Christian McCaffrey in your lineup with Tyreek Hill there as well, I think Ezekiel Elliott is another good running back to have in your cash lineup. He had 20 touches last week. They cut Ty Montgomery after this game. So they cut one of their backup running backs after this game as if like they didn't need one.
We don't need him.
That's nice. I don't love the matchup. Kansas City, particularly at the beginning of the year, was really good against their run. But I'm just going after the volume. Like this is kind of like the same rationale as why you play Rachaad White in cash this year is like, he's not an efficient runner. It doesn't look good, but he's getting 20 touches. And that's about all you need when it comes to your cash running back.
No, I like that a lot. Kelly, you have a player who I have been falling more and more in love with lately. And one of the things I find very interesting about Jerome Ford is, especially over on DraftKings, is Kareem Hunt has this history of being a pass catching back. That is not at all how the Browns are using him. And Jerome Ford has kind of stepped into that role.
Yes, he has. And I agree. He has become one of my favorite players too. I was very skeptical at first. It's just a replacement player.
Me too. I was telling people to avoid him.
And it's like, you're going to drop all your fab on this. And it turned out to be a really good decision. I'm glad people went with their gut. He was listed as questionable. So as long as he plays, I think this is a great move. 5.5K on DraftKings, 6.4K on FanDuel, 5%. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong rostership. 9% rostership, which is still low in the scheme of things. Here's what I love, bringing up the data, looking ahead at prop bets. This could be his 4th game in a row with 50 or more scrimmage yards.
Wow.
I like that.
Yeah.
He's projected for 11.5, 10 points, respectively, on our platforms, DraftKings and FanDuel.
I think that's a great bring up is when you see guys getting 50 to 60 scrimmage yards, that's a 6-point floor at minimum. And with a team that is playing quite well, despite everybody getting hurt, Jerome Ford has as good a chance as anyone to score a touchdown this week.
Exactly. And I like to look at these games in a row because it shows that they have consistent production.
I love it. And then you're sticking with that Washington Rams game. And are we stacking Sam Howell and Curtis Samuel?
You know, I really like this one. One, because of the salary. It's quite low. The rostership is quite low. We're looking at another player with another game streak, which I like. Curtis Samuel, 4.6K on DraftKings, 6.3K on FanDuel, and just a 5% rostership. This could be his 3rd game in a row with 65 or more receiving yards. And we all know that the Rams defense is pretty mediocre at best.
Yeah.
We're looking at around 10 fantasy points on DraftKings and 8 on FanDuel. But I like everything about this, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Last week, we saw the Rams defense, I don't want to say exposed, but beat up on by the Ravens offense. And obviously, there's a huge argument to be made that Washington is not the Ravens. However, I think Curtis Samuel is filling a similar role in this Washington offense as to what Zay Flowers fills for the Ravens. And Zay Flowers had a monster second half last week. I think 6 catches, 84 yards, and another touchdown, if I remember correctly. So
correct. And
think it's a good
I
pick.
definitely love seeing these players get to fill a void, for lack of a better word, and they make the play happen. So those are the moments we want to celebrate when we're watching football.
Yeah, I think seeing Curtis Samuel just be involved in this offense, because we really were ready to write him off with Jahan Dotson. And Samuel has stepped up and may become that intermediate route there for Sam Howell, which he should be using quite a bit of in this game. So
For sure.
just a reminder, folks, you can play DFS with Kelly, with Austin, and with myself and a bunch of other people and some folks from Club Fantasy. You'll find links in the description of this video for our contest on FanDuel and DraftKings. You'll find those same links in Austin's article that drops later on today, and Kelly's article if she has time to put it out on Saturday. Sometimes she does a recap of this show. Anyway, if it says DFS on Club Fantasy, you're going to find links to come play some DFS with us. We get to my favorite category, C's get degrees. I was literally just joking with my high school age son about this. Not that he's getting C's, but I was telling him it wouldn't matter if he did, because I'm a terrible father. Yeah, exactly. But anyway, these are the punt plays. These are the players under $4,000. Austin's going to cover us on cash. Go ahead and take care of it, buddy.
Yeah, so I'm going to start with my defense of the week, which is the New York Giants. I'm going to be honest. They're the cheapest that I feel comfortable with. That's like the primary approach here. I tried to find something cheaper, but I don't love the matchups for.
And they have played surprisingly well as of late.
They have played surprisingly well as of late, and they're playing against the New Orleans Saints. I don't trust Derek Carr these days, and I think he can take some sacks. He can turn the ball over. He's got that style of quarterback where he's just willing to take the hit, and you love it when you have a defense going against him that is on your roster. So I need to squeeze a defense in, and they're the cheapest ones I feel good about.
Actually, I'm going to let Kelly talk about a defense as well, and then you both have a player in common here. So if you're looking for another cheap defense, not quite as cheap as Austin's, but not very much higher, Kelly, you like Houston this week.
Yeah, I mean, I went back and forth on this. There are a lot of great defensive plays this week that are all going to perform right around the same and have around the same salaries. But I have decided to go against the Texans. Keeping the salary in that sweet spot. We know it's under 4K because we're talking about this section, but 3.4K on DraftKings and 3.9 on FanDuel. And they're projected for 7.5 fantasy points. And for reference, the highest projection is in Miami, but they are far too pricey for me. So I like that nice mid-range, low-level salary, but you could do just as well with the Falcons, Browns, or Bears, according to the data in this tier.
Okay, I don't normally challenge you guys, but defense and special teams is a passion of mine. And there was a team that I was shocked at how underpriced they are, and I think it's because people are afraid of the offense they're playing. But the number one fantasy defense, Dallas Cowboys, are 3,200 on DraftKings and 4K even on FanDuel. To me, that's obscene, and I will openly tell you, if you're playing against me, Dallas will be my defense this week, specifically on DraftKings. Like, am I missing something, guys? Is Buffalo that scary that we're just avoiding the Dallas defense who seemingly scores a touchdown every other week, Kelly?
Well, I make my picks by looking at all the projections in a row. And when I look at Dallas, they're projected at 6.1 fantasy points, and all around them are far higher projections. That doesn't mean that you are wrong. It just goes against what I've seen as successful picking out a number that stands out to me in a specific salary tier. That one is low in that specific salary tier.
You mentioned Miami as the highest rostership. Well, I let Austin talk a little bit. Could you look at Dallas's rostership for me? I find that interesting.
1%. Miami doesn't have the highest rostership. They have the highest projected points.
Oh, apology. I thought we were still talking rostership.
But I'm not paying 4,000. The highest projection is the Bills right now, followed by the Rams, 14 and 13%. But 1% rostership. Dallas Cowboys, you might be onto something for tournaments.
Yes, I am. I don't mind letting my ego shine on this one. I am. Austin, Josh Allen still turns the ball over last time I checked.
Yeah, I mean, this is why it's a great tournament play. The thing is, I am not going there in cash just because simply I can't afford to. Like,
Well,
I
and
don't
that's
have
fair too.
I don't have the salary available. Literally, based on my current cash lineup, the most expensive defense I could get are the Panthers, and I'm playing Bijan Robinson, so that's
You're
not
not
really
doing that.
great
So then the
roster
Giants.
construction. Yeah, but I agree from a tournament perspective. Like, yes, Josh Allen has turned the ball over in like 8 consecutive games, or thrown an interception in like 8 consecutive games. And hey, if Deron Bland returns that one for a touchdown,
You're
you all of
smiling.
a sudden have gotten different in your lineup. So love that for tournaments.
All right. Just needed to throw that out there. One of the ones that shocked me a little bit this week. Austin, keep talking to us about this Green Bay rookie tight end. Not the one they drafted the highest.
Yeah, not the one they drafted first, but another one that I was interested in the pre-draft process, and that is Tucker Kraft, who is only $3K on DraftKings.
Yeah,
Once
dirt
again,
cheap.
we're getting that Monday night discount. He is a little bit more expensive on FanDuel, up to $4,700 on FanDuel. Basically, see everything I said about Jayden Reed, like.
Yeah.
Their pass catchers are really beat up right now. Aaron Jones is still coming back from injury. AJ Dillon might not play, et cetera, et cetera. So the target share should be there. Also, I've been surprised to see that Tucker Kraft has been getting targets down the field. Like, he's been getting explosive plays. In the past 2 weeks, he has averaged 12.3 and 16 yards per reception, which is not what I anticipated to see from Tucker Kraft. So he's really been coming on down the stretch, and I am a big fan of him in cash this week, especially because of the salary saving I'm getting from him.
Yeah. Kelly, it surprises me when Austin talks obscure rookie tight end. It doesn't surprise me when you do it, and it certainly doesn't surprise me when you like the exact same guy as Austin. So you're in on Tucker Kraft this week too.
I am in on Tucker Kraft. And to just throw a little monkey wrench in things, Tucker Kraft could just as well be Cade Otton this week. They are about the same player. But I'm giving the edge to Tucker Kraft because while they're both facing struggling defenses, both defenses struggle against tight ends. Tampa Bay is the worst of the two. So I'm going with Tucker Kraft projected for 6 fantasy points on DraftKings, 5 on FanDuel. However, he's getting a lot of hype, and we're starting to see that rostership climb.
It's interesting that they are playing each other. That could be the most tight end game ever, which is right up Kelly's alley. So that'll be your favorite game of the week by far.
Yes, it will.
There you go. Guys, we're moving on to prop bets before we let these guys announce their lineups at the end of the show. We call it Prop Quiz. It's brought to you by BetStamp. BetStamp funnels all of your betting and DFS needs into one place to help you get the best bang for your bet. You can use the link in the description of this video to see what sportsbooks are available in your state and help you sign up for any of the offers they have out there for you. You're going to start making money in no time, and that can start with some prop betting, which Austin and Kelly have you covered for. Austin, 3 of 5 last week, 52% on the season. These are great numbers. I love to see it.
Yeah, we love it. We're going to keep it rolling this week. I have 5 more picks for you. Please note, some of these are on Saturday. Well, one of them's on Saturday. Russell Wilson is our Saturday pick. Over 215.5 passing yards. You can find that on Underdog. Essentially, I'm beating up on the Detroit Lions defense that has been struggling in recent weeks, and I think that Russell Wilson can get there on this defense. We're going Rachaad White over 18.5 rushing attempts. He just continues to get a lot of running volume, and we've seen the Green Bay Packers struggle at times against the run. And even if they don't, for whatever reason, this Tampa Bay offense will just run the ball into the ground, even if it's all 2 yards per carry. They don't care.
Rachaad White is winning in bad matchups, so I like it.
Exactly. And then we just talked about Tucker Kraft. I'm taking his receiving over 34.5 receiving yards. He's done this both of the past 2 weeks as he's gotten more involved in the offense, and with all those players injured, seems likely that he can hit the over here. Bijan Robinson over 62.5 rushing yards, not receiving, rushing yards on Underdog.
Not saying you couldn't hit it.
You could hit it if they would use them like that. But we're doing the rushing one against Carolina. That defense, again, not great against the run. And the last one, a player that I don't think I've talked about.
Gotta be the first time he's been on the show this season.
Is Chig Okonkwo. Oh wait, no, we talked about him because Kelly picked him a few weeks ago. I remember it was when you weren't here, Ryan.
Oh, okay, there you go.
I remember because we talked about his name. But I'm taking his over on 31.5 receiving yards. All of a sudden, he's being used in this offense again. And I imagine that as defenses try to defend DeAndre Hopkins, he can get open up for some targets.
Kelly mentioned a tight end. Are you kidding me? That's the theme of the show at this point. Kelly, you got some prop bets for me that you are literally filling in as we are speaking.
I am filling them in as we speak, and I may have to give the other two. And I promise, I will do a recap article. But I do want to say I was 4 of 5 for prop bets last week, and it
That's
actually
awesome.
would be 5 of 6 because I secretly played the one that I took back. And it hit.
I was gonna say, I remember you barely got done saying it when you were like, never mind, don't play this one.
And then I ended up playing anyway, and it hit. So
I love it.
Well, this week I'm taking another page from my own book and going off the trends. It seems to pay off. So why change? We have 2 options with Sam Howell this week. If you like to take the spicy bet, which you should because it's basically free money, there is a rushing or receiving touchdown for Sam Howell is going to get you 1.25 extra payout. So you might as well do that. But if there's another spicy bet you like better, I still like Sam Howell higher than 269.5 passing yards because he's on a 4-game streak of over 300. So I like that. Curtis Samuel, let's go with higher than 58.5. This one is one of those that's a little iffy because when we talked about his streak, it seems like this one was close. I'm scrolling because I lost my place. But I like Curtis Samuel higher. And, yes, he's usually at 65 or more. So that one we've got safe space.
Yeah.
Jerome Ford, this is the close one. Usually over 50 rushing yards. We're looking at 46.5. I'm going to take the over, even though it's a little close for comfort.
I think those are fair bets. And she said, make sure you guys check the article on Saturday. She'll have some other ones in there for you.
I'll give you 2 more.
I love it. All right, guys, we end the show with the Valedictorian Shootout. That is Kelly and Austin announcing lineups on the show. These may not be the lineups they're playing against you on Sunday, though Kelly's will be because Kelly's a very simple person. When it comes to this, she's not trying to set a whole bunch of lineups. So they're going to announce their lineups. Last week, Austin took it by a very close margin, just 6.5 points. So nothing to be worried about, Kelly. 4-10 this season, but we still have 4 weeks left. You can close that gap a little bit. Austin, give us your lineup, DraftKings scoring that you will be using against Kelly this week.
Yeah. So I don't think I talked about any quarterbacks in this show. So you'll have to read the A-list for the quarterbacks I'm picking this week. But one of them is going to be Brock Purdy, who I have at quarterback this week at $6,800. I am pairing him with Christian McCaffrey at $9,300. Big shock there. And Bijan Robinson is my other running back at $6,800. At receiver, we have Cooper Kupp at $7,800. Jayden Reed at $4,900. Elijah Moore at $4,500. Hoping that connection with Joe Flacco continues. And then I have Greg Dortch in the flex at $4,100. Feel kind of nervous about it.
Yeah.
I am hoping for the target volume. And then at tight end, have Tucker Kraft at $3K. And then the New York Giants at $2,700. Squeezing them in.
Kelly, what do you got for me?
Nothing.
Nothing? Are you going to do it later?
I'm telling you, when I travel, it is so hard.
You always mention, and you said I was saying California, it even like gives you a hard time accessing it sometimes, right? So.
Yeah. I haven't even had recorded my Cardinals podcast this week. It's been a very low production content week for me.
Here's the thing. We know you're working hard, and I know you'll get a lineup in there for us to keep score of for next week. So that's going to be it for this week, folks. Before we talk about or before we get out of here, let me remind you, you can play with us. And last week we had winners whose names you have heard on our show before. OTA top Troy takes down the DraftKings contest with 162 points, 4th time winning that contest. I finished 3rd in there. It seems like every other week, but someone needs to come in, start playing with us, take OTA top Troy out of here. And our good friend Joel Worth, J-Dubs, 1035, takes down the FanDuel contest with 131 points, his third time winning on FanDuel. So congrats to Troy, congrats to Joel, and possibly congrats to you guys. Check the links in the description of this video to play with us on both DraftKings and FanDuel. $2 buy-ins. Before we get out of here, Kelly, I know it's been a rough week for you, but I imagine you're still getting your articles put out. Where can people find your work?
By the skin of my teeth.
Yeah, right.
There is one article floating around out there at playerprofiler.com. I've got no other podcasts for you. I even missed Sneaky Girls this week. So just find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at Kelly and Phoenix and see what's new.
There you go. Austin.
Yeah, you can follow me on X and Instagram at Austin_FFL. And if you are watching this on Friday, the A list will be out today. Otherwise, it'll be here whenever you do watch this.
Yeah. And you can find that at clubfantasyffl.com. You can follow Club Fantasy on all of the social medias at Club Fantasy FFL. And every single week, I tell you, if you're watching on YouTube, just go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Helps Club Fantasy a ton. We would like to eventually monetize and start paying these people for all the great work they're doing. But right now, they do it out of the kindness of their own heart. And so do I and everybody else here at Club Fantasy. And we love them. We love you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys so much. The fantasy playoffs are here. I hope you guys have a long, long run. But if you don't, DFS is going to be there for you. Kelly and Austin are going to be there to help you set lineups. Good luck this weekend. Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye.